Hey everyone, Jared here with Gearhead Grind Garage, bringing you another episode. I'm going to do an update on the 72 Chevy. I've been calling it the K7.5 because it's a K5 Blazer chassis with a K10 cab and bed on it. So what I've been doing so far is wrapping up the front bumper. Basically, pretty much everything's done. All I have to do is finish cutting out the holes for the lights here in the front. So I'm going to run two Baja Design Squadron Pros next to each other, two on each side. My plasma cutter tip took a crap, and it looks like I'm out of tips and everything, all the consumables for it. I lost them. So waiting on that to arrive, and then I'll finish cutting the holes and really clean this up, because you can see it was really not cutting well there towards the end. But I do have two of them in place. We also have the Badlands 12,000 pound winch mounted up in there, and everything's kind of bolted into place and looking good. One thing I'm not a huge fan of is the bolts hanging down below here for that bumper. I might figure out a way to flush mount those. I'll probably put them in little flush mount washers basically, so they're not going to get beat up as the bottom side of this bumper hits rocks or anything. But you can see I did design it to act basically as a skid plate under here. I may even put some UHMW under or something like that to help this slide. But yeah, it's a pretty stout piece. And then I basically cut away a little section here. I wanted to keep it looking, you know, as much like a stock K10 bumper or the K5 bumper, the same thing, as possible. So I basically just did a little cutaway here to be able to get the you know, to the winch controls and everything here. The rest, for if I need to actually plug in the winch line and all that, it's pretty easy to get to in the back, so there's no issue there. And then the actual controller for the winch and everything is behind the grill here off to the side. So yeah, the cables, I mean, I'm gonna route everything, but let me turn on the light here. Yeah, so we've got the winch controller, all the electronics for it up here mounted solidly to the front of the truck off to the side of the radiator. Then we'll finish running the lines and everything. This one's the main power cable that goes over to the battery, and then the other cables that run down to the winch are down there. You can see, you know, if I had an issue, I could just open up the hood and get to the controls down there as well. But yeah, the winch is mounted next to, you know, trans cooler on the other side here. But yeah, that's the front bumper. So that's what I've been doing for that. Just waiting, like I said, on the tips and consumables for my plasma cutter, and be able to wrap it up, put in the new lights, and then finish coating everything. Alright, so in the back of the truck, I have been busy. I don't know why I didn't record this last week, other than just being focused on getting some work done. I should have put up a camera or whatever, but I didn't. So basically, we had, originally, for anyone that's watched it before, there was a roll bar in the back, kind of that classic, like, big 3-inch tube roll bar. So I had to cut that off. The bolts are all seized, so I cut it out of the mount. Then there was a big diamond plate piece of steel the size of the bed on top of the old wooden slat, so I pulled that out. I'll probably reuse it for other parts of the project here. It'd be pretty cool to, you know, reuse some pieces from the original, or not original, but truck as I got it. And then I pulled out all the old wooden bed slats as well as these supports. I'm not going to be reusing those. I mean, it would be cool to make it wood, but this is going to be a truck used for off-roading. So I needed space to basically run. I'm going to be running the shock hoops for the big bypasses for a longer travel suspension. There's going to be the spare tire mount back here. And then this big 30-gallon fuel cell will be mounted as well. So the project for today is figure out, right now the bed is actually up and level right now. So it's where it needs to be. So what I'm going to do is make some mounts that come off and basically support, you know, I'm going to triangulate the corners of the bed here to make sure everything is tied in. And then it's going to mount to the actual frame rails itself, because I need to get rid of these stock, or whatever this is. I imagine it's not probably stock, but these cross members with the body mount style mounts on it. Probably just going to hard mount it, or at least do some like hard urethane mounts just for a little bit of movement in there. But yeah, that's kind of the project for today, is mounting the bed. And that way, when my leaf springs and the bypasses come in, I can start with the fabrication of the shock hoops and getting everything lined up there. But yeah, that's where it is. Oh, and then, you know, I'll get the fuel cell in there. So I know, you know, where the center line of the axle is going to be. So I'm going to do a few other things. I need to blow off the rear mounts here for the leaf spring because I have new hangers for it that I'll go through in a separate video. And then take off the stock bump stops because it'll be running some Fox or King hydraulic bump stops as well. But basically, you know, we know where the center line of the axle is here. So I'm going to take some measurements off my 14 bolt and figure out where the rear of it's going to be and what the travel is going to be. And then start coming up with some mounts for the big 30-gallon fuel cell that's going to be here. And then figure out the height of where this fuel cell is going to mount because it's quite deep. Basically, I got one that mounts in between the frame rails, as you can see here. So that way I can figure out the height of it, and then the spare tire will basically go, you know, the back of the spare will kind of come down to the back of the fuel cell here. So in this stuff, I'll build a little a mount that goes over that and protects everything. Yeah, that's the general plan for right now. Truck build. I've been really busy on it. I've been doing a lot. I had a whole work day that I didn't even film anything because I was just like heads down cranking on stuff that wasn't necessarily super interesting, but more just, hey, we need to get it done. So a few updates so far. I am in the process of getting this fuel cell mounted. I actually ran out of the tube that I need or I want to mount it with, so that's kind of a work in progress as I'm waiting for that. I've also, it's going to be tough to see right there, but I have started boxing certain parts of the frame in. So this rear section where I was doing the fuel cell mount, I went ahead and boxed that, and it's really going to strengthen. And then also these mounts that hold the bed in that I did before are boxing the rear end of it as well. And I kind of strengthened up the bumper too. So these are going to be the leaf spring hangers that are down here. There's also now a tube that runs in between the rear part of the bumper there, which is just going to serve as a secondary support from the bumper and then strengthen the whole fuel cell. So if anything was to happen, I was to get hit in the back or something, one more tube in between the rear of the truck and the fuel cell. You can see I need to recope that one. This whole thing's going to be split apart and kind of redone. But I was in the process of mounting the fuel cell there, so I'm using some 1 1/4" tube to go around it and just tacking it in place because I also now have the leaf springs, which are right here next to me, which I am gonna start getting into place and making sure that, you know, where this is tacked up as it cycles through the full travel of the rear axle, that everything is gonna clear this fuel cell as well. So there's a lot to do on the rear suspension here. Basically, I need to get just the springs as they are installed, get my, you can see it under there, my 14 bolt, get that under the leaf springs with the tires and everything on, and basically measure, you know, kind of put it under some tension and measure my pinion angle for the hangers there. Let me just go around and show you. So basically, I've got my leaf spring perches just tacked on the axle here. So what I'm going to do is get them under the leaf springs and then make sure that my measured pinion angle matches when the axle is actually sitting under the leaves, because things may change. And then making sure that the pinion angle of this 14 bolt here is going to match the output of my NP205 under here, to make sure we're all good there before I final weld that axle together. And then, you know, I don't remember if I've actually shown this or not, but the rear axle is built right now. It's got the locker in it. We've got the 488 gears in there. Everything's all measured. We're good to go on that. So basically, oh, and it is truss now too. So yeah, once I get the pinion angle set, we can final weld those perches on. get everything slammed together. I'll go over the disc brake conversion that's going to happen on these and all the extra components that I've got for them. But yeah, that axle should be put into place there. I am also currently working on the front axle to get it ready for the 4-link kit that I'm doing on it. So I did actually get some components from Off-Road Designs to do the 4-link on the front suspension. So prepping this axle for that. Mainly I'm jumping around so much because I tried to do a majority of the fabrication and grinding stuff when you know, my wife's away, my kid's away and all that, just because it is loud. So basically, you know, I took the leaf spring perches off of this, cleaned up the tube, and I'm gonna get it ready for these the 4-link mounts to go on here. So I'm gonna, basically what you do is you throw a U-bolt through here and get everything lined up. We're gonna get this side mounted and prepped first, measure the effective angle. I'm gonna find a flat spot and double check it in a couple areas, probably on here, across these parts, maybe across this tube and at the top, and grab an angle to use. Then I'm going to go ahead and match this, you know, same thing, measure in a couple different spots and make sure that my effective angle on this mount matches the passenger side to get everything done. Once I have those on, I might come up with a way of kind of trussing the front here to some degree. Not sure about that yet. We'll see if it works, but I probably won't need it with the 4-link as well because of how, you know, I'm already beefing it up a little bit. But then I can get rid of the open gears on this Dana 44 3/4 ton 8-lug version and replace it with the 488s and the locker. That's going to go in this as well. Also have the new Yukon hubs, chrome ollie axles, all that stuff for this. So it's going to be a beefy Dana 44 on the front, basically on Fox coilovers, but I'll show you guys all that once I get closer. Well, that was kind of a shotgun approach on just what the updates are and what we're doing right now. The other thing I forgot to mention is on the other sides of the fuel cell here, I'm going to continue basically boxing in the frame as we go forward. So I'm going to drop the shocks that were originally on this truck, probably take off the stock shock perches as well, or the mounts there, and yeah, box everything on the frame going up, because I need to, on top of everything else, figure out where my bump stop cans are going to mount for the hydraulic bump stops that are going down here on the frame. So probably somewhere right in here, but need to square them up with the axle. Also going to provide some frame gusseting on top of the boxing on the outside here where things are going to mount. And also, you know, once the axle's in and all that, basically what I'm going to do is break apart these spring packs after I get that pinion angle set, so that way it's just one main leaf essentially, and then cycle the rear suspension. So if I get it down to one leaf, I can easily use floor jacks and such to cycle the rear, because I want to see exactly where that bump stop's going to go, where to stop the axle, and then I can work on mounting my rear bypass shocks. So these wimpy ones are going to go away. There's going to be some 3-inch Fox triple bypasses that are coming, but they're still on order. They're taking forever. And those are going to go up in between the frame and the bed, basically. So up here. So that way, you know, there is going to be cage work up here in the bed, basically tying everything together. So, you know, there's going to be a tube that goes up there. Shock's going to mount on that. And yeah, should be pretty cool once it's done. There's a lot of fabrication ahead and lots of just beefing stuff up. So that's kind of the boring part, is beefing everything up and boxing it in. But I'll cover that in more detail once I get there as well.